All right, here comes everyone from the waiting room. Welcome.
Welcome from the waiting room. Hello, everyone. I see a bunch of people still connecting to audio, maybe getting ready to turn their cameras on, which would be lovely. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are. Hello, welcome. If you could, please drop in the chat where you're from or where you're calling in from and how you found Tradition Kitchens. We would love to see where everyone is from and just how we get out there. Also, please turn on your cameras if we can. We'd love to see everyone. If you don't have a camera, that's okay. If you're a bit camera shy, please turn it on. We really want to see you. Hello from Arlington, Georgia. Oh, you got a Georgia friend, Julia.
Oh my gosh, and I have a friend from Ithaca, New York on the line. Hello, Inga. You might be our first Tradition Kitchen spotlight where we welcome everybody for a quick hello. I'm Julia and this is Brianna and we're so excited to have everybody. Looks like we have a connection to Ithaca. So Inga, can I spotlight you and you can say hello and where you're calling in from and we can all say hi? Make sure you unmute on the bottom left if you haven't.
Okay.
Hello.
I'm
Inga,
right?
yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. I'm Inga. I'm from Ithaca, New York. Ithaca, New York is where Cornell University is, and that's where Julia comes from also. She's a graduate of Cornell. And we met each other when she was working in New York and I was consulting there. And we worked together. So, and you know, she always had a lot of activities going on, and I always wondered how she did it. So now I'm my first attendance at this one, at the kitchen, and I'm very excited and curious, and can't wait to see what's happening.
This is so exciting, Inga. You have made my day, week, night, evening, everything. So thank you for being here. I love it. We have old friends, we have new friends, and we love getting to meet everybody in your virtual kitchen. So thank you for coming. And we have, I'm gonna take the spotlight to our next guest. Anybody excited or eager to say hello? It's been great to see how many wonderful intros are happening in the chat on the right. We've got Seattle. How about, let's see, Monica, would you like to introduce yourself and say hello? Just unmute on the left-hand side.
Hello, everybody. I'm Monica. I'm in Pitchland, British Columbia in Canada. And I'm so looking forward to this little cooking class here.
Amazing. Welcome. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Brianna, who should we go to next?
I see someone is calling in from Ireland. Ailish.
Oh, Ailish has come before. We talked about Dublin and cheese, I think. Well, if you're able to unmute and come on video, let us know. In the meantime, we might go over to David D, who's in the kitchen, a real kitchen. Oh, we've got two wonderful attendees. Would you all like to say hi and introduce yourself?
Yeah, we're calling in from just north of Washington, D.C. And this is my son, Peter. This is my wife, Nancy. We're the cooks tonight. She's just gonna eat whatever we give her.
Sounds like a great plan. Good family bonding. Love it. Thanks for joining us. This really warms our heart. We love when families are cooking together, either in the same place or separately. So thank you. All right, we'll remove the spotlight. And for those who are just joining, I'm Julia, and I encourage you to read the chat. I'm here with Brianna, who's our kitchen ambassador, who helped plan this event. And we'd love for you to join us on video if you can. Just quickly turn it on. We're doing a few intros. We'll do one more before we officially get started. Anybody super excited to say hello this evening? Taking a look. How about V. Arender? I don't know, that might not be the correct name for you, but would you like to say hello?
Oh, hi. Yeah, I'm Varinda. I'm Reshmin's mom, Resh's mom, who is, yes, yes. It's lovely to see all of y'all and the support you're giving her. It's wonderful. Yes.
Oh,
Love
my
to
God.
have her.
Do you love Rash? Oh, this is so great. It's so good to officially meet you again. I know you were on the last call, I think. So I can't believe we picked you of all the people. This is like, your smile made us pick you.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, and where are you based, if you don't mind us asking?
Okay, I'm in Malaysia. I don't know the Borneo part of Malaysia, near, Borneo. Have you all heard of Borneo?
Mhm.
Malaysia, yeah. It's
Yeah.
sort of near the Philippines, near Kalimantan, yeah. Or Hong Kong, or you can say near Brunei. Yeah, I'm from there. Yeah. Kota Kinabalu.
Oh my gosh, we have quite the international call tonight, or this morning for you, I think. What time is it there?
Oh, it's 7:30 now here in the morning.
Wow.
Yes.
This is a loyal chef and loyal mom. Amazing. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming. And thank you, Rash, for teaching. So Brianna is going to introduce us and what we're going to do together.
Yes, hello everyone. Like Julia said before, welcome to Tradition Kitchens. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, wherever you're calling in from. Thank you for being here. Welcome to, I think I'm pronouncing this right, Qeema Matar Masala with Rash. If you've been with us before, welcome back. If this is your first class, welcome. We're so happy to have you here. My name is Brianna. I'm a kitchen ambassador for Tradition Kitchens. And as Julia mentioned before, she founded this little organization that we all know and love. So we do offer free cooking classes online. We're rooted in tradition and culture, and we like to remind everyone that we're all about getting to know the people we're cooking with, the stories behind the foods we're making, and learning as if we're hanging out in our neighbors' kitchens. So here's a little Zoom intro. So for those of you who had never used Zoom before, you could find a reaction button on the bottom right. So if you hear something you like, you could feel free to hit the buttons. Let's see, here's a clapping emoji you could see in my little corner up there, or a laughing emoji if something Rash says is really funny. So we just like to see that little bit of interaction there. Also, before every class, we do like to take a selfie or a Zoom selfie. So now I'm going to ask everyone again if they could please turn on their cameras if they have, and if they're not in bed like Polly is. So please turn on your cameras. And Julia, do you want to count us down for our selfie?
Yes, but definitely we'll do. Call it a few names: Arlene, JR, Terry, Eddie, Margaret. If you wanted to join us on video, we'd love to have you. Lena, thanks for turning on your camera. Looks like we have most people. Gallery view is super fun on the top right. You can join us in seeing everybody. So we have a good amount. Let's all smile. Looks like Eva's under the covers. 3, 2, 1. And there's Sandra from Las Vegas. Great to see you. Let's take one more in case anyone closed their eyes. 3, 2, 1. All right, thanks Brianna for taking those. A quick reminder that we are monitoring the chat, but we sometimes are not able to get to everyone's question, because if we did that, it might totally disrupt our class and we would go on for hours and hours. So we appreciate everyone's understanding that we will do our best to get back to you, and encourage you, if there's a question that you have that's really urgent, to try searching on the internet. It might give you a faster answer than we are able to provide. So with that, we are going to turn it over to our amazing chef. I'll let Brianna introduce her. We're so excited, live from Australia, to have her back a second time.
Yeah, so some of you might recognize our teacher tonight, Rash. She has cooked with us before, and she's slowly but surely becoming a regular with Tradition Kitchens. She has also graciously created a vegan version of this dish tonight. So if you're vegan, vegetarian, don't like meat, you're covered. So thank you, Rash, and I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Julia. And thank you, Traditions Kitchen, for having me back. I'm really excited to be sharing today. Brianna, you did almost get it right. It was Qeema Matar Masala. So that was pretty good for a first try. And so that just basically means spice. So Qeema means spice meat. Matar means peas. And masala just means mix in Hindi. So hopefully you guys are excited to be learning at least how to cook this along with me today, or at least watch. But before I get started, has anyone heard of this dish before? Put your hands up if you have. The virtual hand, I mean, in the reactions button. Yeah, Julia has. Anybody else raise your virtual hand like so if you have heard of this dish before or tried it?
I think I just see your mom.
Well, it's funny because she taught me how to make it, so she doesn't count.
Okay, that's bad now.
I'm kidding, Mom. And thank you for the wonderful introduction from yourself. It's great to have you. Alish, I think you've tried this dish before. Fantastic. So hopefully you get to try making this yourself at home at some point. So great. So it doesn't sound like many people have heard of this dish, which is always fun because it means you'll learn something new, and I get to share, which is something I truly enjoy doing when it comes to food. Probably the other question I have before we get started was just who's cooking along with me today? Is there anyone in the kitchen? I think you mentioned before there was David and his family. Yep. Hey, you guys. Yeah, you're gonna get jiggy. That's it. Was there anyone else cooking along with us? Oh, just kind of, gonna reserve the recipe for later, which is totally fine. But if there isn't anyone, David, keep me honest. Definitely, I'll prioritize questions coming in from you guys since you're cooking along with. Other than that, we will get started. So my name's Rash. I think Brianna did a wonderful job introducing me, but Rash is what I go by. So feel free to shout out my name. Put your hand up if you have a question. As Julia said, we'll try to get through most of them. And if we don't, I will try to get to them at the end. I am available on social media. So even if you don't get your questions answered today, feel free to reach out to me via social media. Brianna will pop those links in for you to be able to have access to. And I'm more than happy to answer questions about this dish or frankly, anything related to cooking, because I really do enjoy sharing my knowledge and learning as well. So today's class will run in such a way that Julia and Brianna already introduced. Raise your hand if you have questions. Keep the comments going. I might not get to it until the end of class, but I always love reading and also learning about some of the exposures that you guys have over in the US, Canada, Ireland as well. We've got dialing in, so that's really great. And also, as Brianna mentioned, we'll be doing a vegan and meat version. So what I'll do today is the meat version. I won't do the vegan version, but I will show you how to prepare it so you can cook it and call out the variations around how you would actually do the vegan version instead of just the regular meat kind, which I'll do today. So with that, we'll get into ingredients first, just so that, if there's any questions around the brochure that was sent out, there's sort of the traditional versus vegan option, which we'll go through. And then there's also speciality versus substitute ingredients that we'll go through as well, just so that you understand all the substitutions. Because for me, it's not about the ingredients that you use, but the flavors that they bring. And if you start to understand what those flavors are, then you can start to play around in the kitchen as opposed to just trying to follow a recipe, verbatim. So what I will start doing is share my screen. So if I haven't already, actually, let me just try that. We'll come back to that one later on. Yeah, we'll start here. So you should be able to see me in the corner, but I'm just gonna show you a couple of ingredients. So we'll start with, actually, we might start with, so for the vegan version, actually, I'm just gonna switch back to here because I'm talking for a little bit. So for the vegan version, the main thing that we're doing differently is instead of meat, we're gonna be doing tofu. Instead of clarified butter or ghee, we're going to be doing vegetable oil. So those are the two main swaps. And then, of course, if you were to have yogurt on the side, you could have almond yogurt, cashew nut yogurt. Those all go great instead of regular yogurt. And other than that, the other thing is chicken stock that I'll be adding in. So you'd be doing vegetable stock instead. So just a couple of swaps there. I'll show you very quickly just how to prepare the vegan tofu. So what would actually be happening is you would be getting some firm tofu like so. And what I've done is I've already sliced these up. And the reason I've sliced them up is because you don't want to be grating a big block of tofu, and I'll show you why in a second. Because we do want to get that mincemeat texture. We're not going to be able to get that if we have a big block of tofu that we're working with. So to start, I'm going to show you, we're going to use the cheese grater side of the tofu. And instead of going, so I'm going to show you how it's going to be like if I did this long ways and downward. We're going to get very mozzarella cheese or tasty cheese, which we don't want because that's basically too big and we want like a minced version, so even more fine than that. If I went sideways and did the same thing, you'll find that, again, still pretty big, not where it needs to be. So kind of still, hopefully you can see this quite big. We want to kind of get, again, like I said, to that mincemeat texture, which means we probably need to be doing something a little bit nuanced. So I'm going to show you what that is. So we're going to go between three lines of grates and no further. And we're just going to kind of do it like we're grating ginger or lemon zest or anything like that. And I promise you, I won't finish grating this tofu because I'm not going to be cooking with it today. But what I want to show you is just the result of it. So just from having grated it very fine with that motion, you'll see here, hopefully, that we've got now some pretty, you know, mincy looking tofu. And what I tend to do is I'll squish it up like so, even if it's not quite small yet. And if you do that with the rest of the tofu, about half a kilo worth, or I think that's half a pound, roughly, that should get you the consistency you need for the minced or the mock minced meat, I suppose, instead of actually using meat itself. So I will go forward beyond that because I'm not going to cook with that. But if there was any questions about that, I will call out that you should not be using silken tofu or any kind of soft tofu, because that's just going to fall apart and it just structurally doesn't have the right consistency to have that meaty texture. One of the really good positives of cooking with tofu is that it's actually like a sponge for flavor. So it becomes really delicious. I made it a couple times and I was very pleased with the results. So if you do try this with vegan, I'm keen to hear your thoughts and do share it again on social media. It'll be great to hear from you guys on that. So that's the vegan versus traditional options. Now we're going to quickly go through the specialty ingredients versus the substitute ingredients if you can't get the specialty ingredients. So really quickly, I'm going to just show you the first one on that list is actually the red shallots. I might do that one first. So typically we know Spanish onions or red onions to be of this size. Hopefully you can see that. And that's, there we go. And that's a pretty big onion. And so we've all heard of French shallots. In India, we have red shallots, which are kind of just a baby version. And it's kind of got the shallot structure on the inside in terms of how it grows. They are far more powerful in terms of the flavor. You don't need to use a lot of them. And you'll see that I've halved the amount if you are using red onions versus this guy. And the reason is it is quite strong, and whereas Spanish onions tend to be probably a bit sweeter. So either or, doesn't matter. Just understanding it, this one's going to be a little bit more pungent, this one a little bit sweeter. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, I just wanted to show you the difference between the two. The other one is the chilies. So Hari mirchi, which is a green chili, used in a lot of Indian cooking, is just a wee bit of a chili, not a very big one compared to a cayenne pepper. So I would say the heat of this one equals to the heat of this one, because these guys are the green ones are quite powerful. So if you're going to use this guy, I would cut the head off and I'd quarter it down lengthways just to get to the smaller size. And you'll see that I start to do that with most of the other ingredients. We're trying to get it to a bite size so that everything kind of is roughly the same size, whether it's the meat, the peas, the garlic, the ginger, the chilies. So again, it's about, if you cut a cayenne pepper the regular way, it's going to be a little bit too big. So quarter it down lengthways and then chop it up and take the seeds out if you prefer. Don't want it too spicy, but still want a little bit of heat. So that's the chilies for you right there. The next, now we're going to get into the whole spices. So everyone knows what a bay leaf is, and traditionally it's the laurel bay leaf. And that's in California, I believe, have their own specific species of bay leaf, which I'm jealous of because I don't have access to it. But that is not the bay leaf we're going to be using today. And the reason I have it in front of you right now is because I want to show you the difference between the Indian bay leaf and the sort of regular bay leaf. So this here on my left, this guy is the Indian bay leaf. And you'll see very quickly that, actually, I'll do it this way. You can see the veins of the leaf kind of go from the tip where my thumb is all the way up to the top, whereas a bay leaf is more of a traditional looking leaf. Hopefully you can see the difference. So that's how you'd be able to tell that this is an Indian bay leaf. They don't typically get sold in most grocery stores. You'd have to go to an Indian grocery store. And like the Brazil nut in Brazil, in Indian grocery stores, they just call it bay leaf. So you'll have to pay attention to the veins to be able to establish the difference. So hopefully that helps you sort of be a little bit more discerning the next time you're in an Indian grocery store. But this is the one we're going to be using today. Now, this is actually a leaf from a cinnamon tree. And that's why we have cinnamon as a substitute. Before I move on to, in case you can't find this leaf, I also want to just quickly show you what curry leaves are. And that's these guys here, they're fresh. And that's not what we're using today either. Curry leaves are great, I love them. They're quite astringent and lovely in curries, mostly used in South Indian cooking, whereas this particular dish is more of a Mughal cuisine coming in from the north. So a little bit different there, love this stuff, but just not using this stuff today. Now, if you don't have Indian bay leaf, you can certainly substitute it with cinnamon stick. So most of you would have seen this. This is Ceylon cinnamon. I just want to call out that this leaf doesn't come from the same, so it is a cinnamon leaf tree or a cassia cinnamon leaf tree, but it doesn't come from the same Ceylon cinnamon. Now, Ceylon cinnamon's a lot stronger in terms of the cinnamon flavor. It's quite powerful, which is wonderful for desserts and other sorts of dishes that you'd like to make. But typically in India, Northern India that is, when it comes to making savory foods, we use cinnamon bark, which is distinctly different. I'm just going to pick this up and show you. One is a really thick bark and it's long and like a cinnamon, except that Ceylon cinnamon kind of swirls and curls a lot more in the middle. This is the same type of cinnamon that's used in pho, the Vietnamese noodle soup, and other sorts of Asian sorts of cooking, whereas the cinnamon, the Ceylon cinnamon that most of you know, a lot stronger is what you get. And so ground cinnamon would be this version of the cinnamon. And it's fine to use either. This is more of just me sharing a little bit about the difference. This guy is stronger, so I'd half the quantity. So for example, if you would be using an inch of cinnamon bark or 1 bay leaf, which is what I'd recommend. If you don't have a bay leaf, you could use cinnamon bark. So if you don't have either of those, I'd use a half an inch of regular cinnamon and you'd be set. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm gonna pause just really quickly to see if there are any questions, and if there are not, I'll keep going.
I have a quick question. Is everybody, and you all can put this in the chat, able to see Rash's video okay? We're seeing a little lag. It might just be because you're sharing your screen, but let us know if anyone's having so yes, video is going through okay. All right, so then,
perfect.
Then we're good.
Thank you. All good. So now I'm going to quickly switch over to the remaining whole spices before I go into the ground spices. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to show you first the ground spices. So we have, hopefully you can see them, they're 4 distinct colors. The one at the top is the red, which is Kashmiri chili. Kashmiri red chili powder is actually not so strong in terms of the heat. And so you'll notice that cayenne pepper I've put in there is I've halved it because some cayenne peppers can be quite strong, whereas Kashmiri red chili is more red than it is spicy. So it looks stronger than it actually is. So a tablespoon of that, and cayenne pepper wise, a half a tablespoon. We've got a teaspoon each of cumin powder and a teaspoon here of coriander powder. Now, I'll get back to the other spice that I've suggested you use cumin seeds as a substitute if you don't have it. If you're using cumin seeds as that substitute, you can reduce the cumin powder or omit it altogether, only because some people may not necessarily like cumin and maybe don't want it overpowering their dish. So you're more than welcome to adjust it as you like. And same with coriander, I know, or cilantro, for some of you that more commonly use the name cilantro instead of coriander. This is just a powdered version of the seeds, very sweet, very fruity, lovely. And some people, again, they don't like the distinct flavor, so you can omit it if you don't like it. And lastly, we have a little bit of turmeric, half a teaspoon. Lovely for the color again, but then also for that earthiness, and again, half a teaspoon, because too much of it does tend to make things taste a bit bitter. So those are your ground spices. And frankly, that's the beginning of what a garam masala is. So garam masala is basically literally translated warming spice, warming mix. And here it's a mix of spices. And so in Northern India, because it's colder, typically most of their foods will have a garam masala in it. And, notwithstanding adding a little bit of maybe pepper or mustard and fennel, you've got yourself essentially a very basic garam masala. So we're just doing that bottom up, a deconstructed version for ourselves today. Coming back to the remaining spices, I'm just going to pop this guy into the pan so hopefully you can see him. So we're going to start with these two first. So that's the spice that I'm going to be using today. It's called kala elachi, or black cardamom. Very different from a regular cardamom, which is these guys over here, both in size and color. They're both minty, but this guy's smoky. So now the way I've substituted it is one of these equals to two of these. But in terms of flavor, all this replaces is the mintiness. What it doesn't do is replace the smokiness. And so you'll see in the substitute ingredient list, I've actually add smoked paprika, because that smokiness will come through with the paprika if you use it. So not sweet paprika, specifically smoked, just to kind of be able to bring that flavor into the dish if you can't get a hold of these guys. So I'll be using two of these today. The other thing I'll be using, I'm just going to twist this guy around. If you can't get caraway seeds, which is these guys, and I'm going to lift this up so you can see the difference, hopefully. But this is caraway seeds and this is cumin seeds. Can you see how close they look? Sometimes the naked eye can't tell the difference. So caraway seeds is actually used a lot in German cooking. Sauerkraut is where you'd use to make it. I think even some forms of pretzel bread, and quite widely used in some other cuisines as well. Widely used in Persia, and again through the Mughal cuisine, made its way to India, and that's what we'll be using today. Very different flavor to cumin seeds. Looks similar but different. These guys, cumin seeds, far more powerful, stronger. So again, like I said before, if you're using this cumin seeds instead of the caraway seeds, maybe drop down the cumin powder in the ground mix. But these are wonderful. They're different from cumin because they're not actually as spicy or strong. They're actually quite, they've got a pungency to it, but not so much in a spicy kind of way, but in more of a floral kind of a way. So hopefully that comes through in the dish when we fry that up. And not to be confused with black cumin. So some people call black cumin, so black cumin is just a name, and I think it's been misused quite a lot. So some people call caraway seeds black cumin. Some people call nigella seeds black cumin. So specifically go shopping for caraway seeds if you want to try this dish later on. Nigella seeds, completely different flavor. It's more like an onion seed. Wonderful to use, but not in this particular dish. What we're looking for is that guy, or that guy as a substitute. So hopefully that answers all the questions. Oh, and just for fun, that's fennel seeds. So these three seeds, yeah, you kind of need to make sure you know what you're looking at when you're in the spice rack, because sometimes maybe if you don't have, when I don't have my spectacles on, I tend to mix them up if you don't have a good sense of smell for it. So with that, I'm just gonna get the pan going, and we're gonna switch over and kick into the cooking part of today's class. But again, while the pan warms up, any questions from anyone else that has come through? Hopefully, raise your hand if you found that helpful at all. I've seen some comments come through saying that was great information, so I'm glad. Were there any other questions around that anyone had? Or I kind of, encyclopedically unloaded everything and there's nothing else to ask?
I think you covered a good chunk of it.
Awesome.
Oh, there's a question about what's the gadget that's covering the spices?
Oh, yeah, this is, so
Separating it.
I've got the pan going now, so I can't put it in there. But it's just kind of a little container. I might actually you can see me hopefully in the regular view. So it's just a container. It's in almost every Indian kitchen, and it's just got little bowls and a spoon. Typically, when we cook Indian dishes, the flavors and spices are actually rooted in medicinal roots, going back to Ayurvedic medicines and knowledge. So most Indian dishes will typically have the 6 tastes of Ayurveda. So that's the ones we know: salty, sweet, spicy. Salty, sweet, sour, and bitter are the ones we know, and then astringent and pungent are the other 2 that maybe aren't so common in other cuisines. And so this guy just kind of has 7 little bowls that typically have 6 to 7 of those flavors. So I won't get into it today. Maybe we can do a different class next time that kind of talks a little bit more about that and how you kind of mix and match them, because spices used in North India are very different from spices used in South India because of weather and just kind of local foods that are available in terms of the climate, like, for example, coconuts down south instead of dairy up north. And so the spice rack just kind of gives you those elements to play with. So I feel like making this, I'll put more turmeric, less of that, but typically they kind of get used up pretty quickly, so they can all just be put in one little box. It's just a spice box is what that one is. And hopefully that answers the question.
And you find that keeps it fresher, your spices?
I typically still toast them like I will do now. I'm actually going to temper them specifically with the ghee that I'm going to pop in. So just while I answer that question, 4 tablespoons of ghee going in. And so the reason I temper them is because, like any spice, they all have oils in them. Anything from even a mint leaf has some amount of oil. That's where its flavor is stored. So heating up spices always helps, particularly if they've been in the pantry for a long time. But keeping it in that box actually doesn't help in terms of, because all the spices will start to kind of mix together, and the taste can kind of maybe, adulterate each other. And so the reason you'd keep that in that box is if you're going to use it regularly. So I wouldn't get one of those unless I cook regular Indian types of, or at least do cook food that uses those spices a lot. Otherwise, they do tend to start to get sort of a little bit of, I'm thinking of the Malay term to say this, but it'll absorb a lot of air. It'll interchange its flavors amongst each other. So if you don't cook typically a lot with Indian stuff, I keep them in separate bottles, just so that you don't sort of mix them up too much. Hopefully that also answers that question. All right, so I'm going to switch cameras again. We've got this guy going. So I've got ghee in there, and ghee is one of those really wonderful, controversial spice, but a really wonderful one because it actually, like honey, never expires. A little known fact. And so it's really good for you, obviously not in copious amounts. But what we're going to do today is we're going to temper some of the spices we mentioned before. So I'm going to get 2 of my black cardamoms. I'm going to pop them in the mortar and pestle, and I'm just going to open them up and put that in there. So there that goes. And that's just going to start tempering. The next thing that goes in there is my bay leaf. Sorry, the Indian bay leaf, which has magically disappeared. Now here it is. And that goes in. And the other thing that's going to go in is the caraway seeds. So 1 teaspoon of them. So just a nice little amount, just scattered all over. And hopefully you can see that already warming up. So just a little bit of a saute. Ghee has a really high smoke point, so it's going to burn it pretty quickly if you don't either reduce the fire or keep an eye on it. So if you are cooking with ghee, be mindful of that. If you're doing a vegan version, canola oil and vegetable oil, not as high a smoke point, so you should be okay. But yeah, just something to be mindful of. So those have gone in, and the next thing that's going to go in after this is the onions. So we're going to saute the onions for a couple of minutes before we add some of the other ingredients. And then we should be able to get the meat in there. So pushing that to the side. There we go.
You crushed the cardamom, right?
Yes, I did, in a mortar and pestle. So I use this little guy. Hopefully you can see that. or that. So it's a different one too. So it's an Indian one, because when we use our spices and we use marble, they kind of get all mushed in there. So steel kind of keeps it clean. So it's a steel version of it, but you can use any mortar and pestle you have. It's funny, for Malaysian cooking, I have stone mortar and pestle. For Indian cooking, I have a steel one, and for just more continental cooking, I have a marble one. So it's always fun to have a couple of different things at home. So the onions are going in next. I've just diced them up. So we're going to let that sit for about a minute or two, just until it starts to soften, and not before it starts to what we call caramelize. I'll add the garlic and chili in before it starts to do that. I'm just going to get a lid for the pot. I'll be right back.
As you're grabbing the pot, David and family, how's it going for you all? Are you making progress? I'll spotlight you if you can get to your camera. If not, no worries. Any updates from your kitchen? Nope, not yet. All right. Hopefully we'll hear from you.
All right. It smells wonderful over here right now. The ghee just kind of really has that creaminess in its scent, which is quite lovely. So I'm getting ready to put the ginger and garlic in. What I'm going to quickly call out before I put it in is, hopefully you can see this, but I've actually chopped up the ginger into little itty bitty diced ginger bits. And again, like I mentioned earlier, it's more about the mouthfeel. So I don't want to have it sort of minced or grated, because then it just kind of dissolves into the dish. Whereas this, if you like ginger and like biting into it, is a really lovely way to incorporate it into the dish. So again, mince it if you prefer it all mixed in there and just want the flavor. If you want the texture of it, I chop it up. And again, similarly with the garlic, as you can see, a little bits and bites of, kind of when you go with the knife, just before you get to the point where you're overly mincing it up, that's where you stop and you'll get that result. So first things in is the ginger. So that's about a tablespoon worth of about an inch, which is roughly a tablespoon of the ginger. I usually measure an inch of a ginger like that. So when you chop that up, it becomes roughly a tablespoon's worth. So that's gone in. I'll put the garlic in last because it tends to burn. Next in goes the chili. So that's the green chilies that we saw before. And again, if you're putting cayenne chilies and again, your tolerance to spice isn't too great, maybe you can omit the cayenne pepper later on, but keep the smoked paprika if you don't use the black cardamoms, just to get that smoky flavor. So mixing all of that in together. And then we get to the ginger. Sorry, the garlic, not the ginger, that already went in. And there we go. So we're just gonna leave that for a minute or two to properly cook, because we don't want any dish when you put onions, ginger, or garlic. Typically, if you don't cook it properly, the dish will go rancid quicker, just because it does need to be cooked down. And this is true of any Indian dish, most of the Malaysian recipes I have. It's better to not overcook it, but cook it properly. You will be able to smell the difference between raw and cooked ginger, onion, and garlic. And once you develop a sense for it, then you're on your way. So there we go. So that's going to go in for another minute or so. And I'm just going to get my, I'm using turkey mince today. So that's him right there. Now, if you're using lamb, and I didn't call this out at the start, but you should probably marinate it in a couple tablespoons of yogurt. The reason for that is to just get rid of that gamey smell that some people might be sensitive to when it comes to mutton or lamb. But if you're using chicken or turkey, as I'm doing, you don't really need to be using that, so you're all fine. So I think this is ready. So I'm just going to make some space in the middle for the turkey to go in. I'm just gonna let that cook down. And so because it's a mince, we're gonna probably need to separate it, get a nice little bicep workout while you're at it. Now, one of the ingredients that I haven't put into this dish that I've seen others add is tomatoes. And that's probably because, actually, give me a second to just get this going, and then I'm going to cover it up for just a minute so I can chat about that. I do not want to compete with that. So you can add tomatoes in, totally fine. What it'll do though is it'll add a little bit of water because tomatoes tend to be quite juicy. So I'm about to put some chicken stock in after I add the ground spices. I would just reduce the chicken stock if you choose to add tomatoes, if you like tomatoes. The other thing I'd avoid doing is adding lemon at the end, because again, tomatoes bring that acidity. And if you've already got it in there, then you probably don't need the lemon, and yogurt, whichever yogurt you end up using, will probably add that tanginess as well. So you'll be covered from that perspective. So I'm gonna get my chicken stock ready, and I'm gonna get my ground spices ready. So what I'm gonna do first is put the ground spices in. What I like to do is coat the ground spices all around the chicken, because it just kind of gives the chicken and all the other ingredients in there an opportunity to just kind of have the spices cling on to them before we kind of bring the chicken stock in to kind of make it a little bit more consistent throughout the dish. And I find that just kind of intensifies the flavor a little bit. So in that goes. And I'm going to stir that up. No, it's smelling like lunchtime, even though it's 10:30 in the morning, 10:15 in the morning over here, but I'm not complaining. This is a lot of fun. So just kind of going back at those itty bitty chunks of meat, just breaking it down. Now, if you were cooking this with tofu, the vegan option, it's not going to take very long for your tofu to cook. But what you want to do is give it enough of an opportunity to mix in. So where I closed it before to give the turkey a chance to simmer a little, you wouldn't probably need to do that. You could go straight in with the spices, stir it up, and add the vegetable stock, then cover it. Because tofu doesn't need a lot of cooking, but it does need a lot of time to, well, not a lot, but a little bit of time for the spices to get into the tofu. And then you'd have to keep an eye on it because it'll be easy to overcook it, which is fine if you like some caramelized, burnt, like intentionally burnt sort of bits of tofu, which can add nice texture to the dish as well. But if you're not a fan of anything burnt or just kind of browned, you can kind of not cook it for too long. So hopefully you can start to see some of those colors come through. That beautiful yellow is really just the turmeric, and some of that background red is the Kashmiri chili powder. So what I'm going to do now is just add in the chicken stock. And I'm going to do a cup's worth. There's my cup. And if you were doing it with lamb and you wanted to do beef stock, go for it. That's good too. It's just going to add that umami flavor to it. And then we're going to cover the lid up for a couple minutes to let that simmer, up to 10 minutes if we think the meat's not done. But on a low, relatively medium to high heat, just so we make sure the chicken, or in this case turkey, cooks through. But before I put that lid on, I'm just going to break up the little bits of turkey. Get my workout in for the day. And then we'll be able to let that sit for a minute before we come back to it. So pretty simple dish. And the same dish with the same spices, instead of cooking it, if you decided that maybe you wanted to just do it kind of like a kebab style, I'd use the same recipe, minus sort of the onions. I'd probably blend the onions and remove the water from the onions, kind of sieve out the water. And yeah, you'd be able to just throw that in with the spices and the meat, and you can make kebabs with it. So it's the same fundamental base recipe that then gets turned into a variety of different dishes. All right, we're going to leave that to sit for a couple of minutes, probably 5. I'll get the timer going to keep me honest. But yeah, that's that for now in terms of the cooking side of things. We're almost at the end. And then we'll be able to plate it up and give it a taste. So maybe we switch back to, that was the chicken stuff. Maybe we switch back to this view, and I'm just going to check in to see how things are going with everyone else. Is everyone sort of learning something? Does anyone have questions? How are we going?
It's good. Should we check in on David and family? If you all are
I
up
think
for
we should. Here he is.
adding to the spotlight.
Doing okay. We're right in sync with you. Right? Yep. Yes. So far, so good.
Awesome. Are you guys doing the vegan version or the meat version?
We wanted to do both, but our brains couldn't handle it. So we're just doing. We're not
That's
sure
great.
too many chili peppers in, so we'll find out after the fact.
Well, did you decide to get any yogurt to go along with the garnish?
We did. So I'm hoping you're going to show me what to do with our yogurt.
Well, it's going to be what helps you fight through that spice, because the milk in the yogurt actually has that effect on your tongue. It actually serves to offset any spice. So that's one of the reasons why you would have it with yogurt. So if it is too spicy, copious amounts of yogurt, please. we just garnish it on top. That's what we'll do with it today.
Oh, and how is Indian chili powder different than just regular chili powder? Is it spicier?
Well, to be very honest with you, in India, chilies aren't from India. Chilies are actually from South America. So they were brought across in the trades, right? And so habaneros and all your traditional South American chilies are the source of it. Now, certain variants of those chilies were brought across, and then again based on the weather and all that sort of stuff and how they were grown. Kashmiri chili, I think, is grown. It's not from Kashmir, oddly enough, but it's from, most of the chilies in India are grown in Rajasthan, which is a desert weather. And so they're different probably in a couple of ways. One is just kind of the intensity of it. Some may be more and less intense, and the other ways in which is just kind of the shape and the size of it. But Kashmiri chili is probably the most popular one, and not terribly potent, relatively speaking. I think Indian food is more potent from a spice perspective than a chili perspective, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how's family time going over there? Looks like you guys are really getting together and really trying to cook up something delicious to eat for dinner over there, isn't it?
Yeah, we actually had to eat before because we knew it might not be ready yet.
That's all right. Got to work for the food.
Tomorrow's dinner, what would you serve this with? Rice or naan, or what do you like to eat with it?
All of the above. So I typically would have it with just plain rice. That's my personal favorite. You could have it with Indian flatbread. I mean, if you got if you went to the store and you got your little burrito wraps, you could make a burrito with it, frankly, because it's minced meat, right? And you could put some rice in there and get creative. My partner loves grits. He has it with grits. So, I mean, you can go crazy. It's just one of those really versatile dishes. And if you want to be healthy, like I said, you can just have it on a salad bed too. So that's good. Yeah. You're welcome. I'm glad you guys are cooking along. It's always fun to have somebody on the other side of the camera doing something similar.
Yes, and other people, when you cook later on, you'll have to let us know. Thanks for that amazing update. We've had some great questions in the chat, but we have a guest who's answering them. Do you know Shampa?
No, but thank you, Shampa. You're being immensely helpful.
Yeah, Shampa, if you want to say hello, we'd love to introduce you, but thanks for answering all the questions.
Yeah, Shampa, please jump on camera if you're not too shy and would like to join the conversation. I appreciate your helping us out. And it's great. I'm going to go and read back some of the chats that you're having with folks so that I can learn something new, hopefully, as well.
Hello, Rash. This is Shampa Mom. I'm a mother and my daughter cooks also. So I have taught many people how to cook, like just friends around the world. And it's been pretty interesting to watch you, and I'm so proud of you.
Oh,
Please,
thank you.
I am so proud of you. This is incredible to watch you. You're my daughter's age, and it's just, thank you so much.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're getting, well, that you're enjoying it. It's coming through your voice.
I am so loving it. I'm sorry, I am not even dressed or anything. I'm like really, house clothes and everything. So I'm not in camera.
You're totally fine.
Next time I will.
Thank you for joining, and thank you for helping with the questions.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad you're enjoying the session. And we're going to do a series of a couple more Indian and Malaysian dishes, but we'll come back to that at the end of the call. So stick around and we'll chat a bit more about that.
I make your Malaysian food also.
Fantastic.
I love cooking. That's it.
Brilliant. Awesome. Thanks for joining.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. That was so fun. Love it. We're getting lots of support in the chat. So Rash, how's the dish going? You said about 5 minutes. Is it?
And 5 minutes is up.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm just going to lift the lid off. Hopefully you guys can see that. And what I'm going to do is I like this dish dry. So I'm going to let that water come off. It's totally fogged the camera.
Yes, we're in a cloud.
Let me just grab a towel.
My first Zoom cloud.
Getting hot in here. It's getting hot. That's what's up. Okay. So as you can see, this is cooked down quite a bit. What you'll start to see, because I added the red chili powder, and so in one of the other dishes that we discussed, Brianna and Julia, is Rogan Josh. So Rogan is basically red oil, and typically is made with either oil or ghee that's mixed in with that red Kashmiri chili powder. And so what we have here, don't mind me wiping that lens, is just a little bit of that starting to show a reminiscent of what a Rogan Josh would look like, though I haven't added nearly as much Kashmiri red chili powder. And also, Rogan Josh typically doesn't use, traditionally doesn't use chili powder. It uses something called alkanet root, which is very, very red, to get the redness from it. So here we have a resemblance of it. You can see along the corners, just starting to form. But I'm gonna get that water to come on up. So I'm gonna, on a high heat to get all that water evaporated, because I like it dry. But if you like it semi wet in terms of the final dish, and especially if you're using tomatoes, because there will be some amount of water come out through the fruit, you're more than welcome to stop cooking it at that point if you like that water to come through. So long as the meat's cooked, because we want to make sure the meat's cooked. That's the main thing. And we'll also just quickly do a salt. I'm going to add a teaspoon of salt, because I don't think we're going to need a lot more than that, just because the chicken stock is going to have some of the savory touch to it already, and also the ghee has that lovely creaminess in it that's going to give us all that yummy intensity. So we don't really need a lot of salt, particularly if you're trying to be careful with salt. And yeah, I think this dish is done almost. I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes and keep the lid off. And yeah, almost there. And right on time too, for a change. The last class went a little bit over because it was a bit more of a longer dish to make. But yeah, we're just gonna let that sizzle up, and then we're good to go. And I'll do a bit of plating and show you something fun that I also can eat it with that some of you may not have seen before. But yeah.
It looks amazing. You're getting lots of incredible compliments. It looks delicious.
Thank you.
Sandra, Marissa says it looks lovely. This is the part of our classes where we wish we could all be together in person, or that Zoom had a smell functionality where we could actually experience it, but maybe sometime soon we will request that feature. But it looks incredible.
Oh, guys, I can't tell you how amazing it smells. It's just got all these spices. It's winter here, so it's a lovely dish to have in winter. It's just all really quite comforting. It is one of those sort of versatile foods, as I mentioned before. You can have it almost with anything, And it does bring that element of comfort just because of the warming spices, the ease with which to eat it. It's just lovely. The only thing that needs to go in now before we finish up is the peas, which I've thawed. So that's about a cup or 135 grams, which is quarter of a pound, I think, hopefully. I'm just going to throw those in now, just to finally bring that all together. And doesn't that look lovely? The green just kind of brightens it up too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm seeing lots of heads nodding. Brianna, did you want to ask that question about in the chat?
Yeah, Danielle is wondering what part of the dish do you not eat, like the bay leaf or the cardamom pods?
Yes, good question. So these two little guys over here, the black cardamoms, I'm going to pull those out. You definitely also don't want to eat the bay leaf, and that's it. So if you were cooking, if you weren't cooking with those, you're totally fine, including green cardamoms. Now, it's funny, and I'm going to tell this story, and Mom's going to be listening, so let's see what she says. But when I was growing up, she and Dad would actually keep a little bottle of cardamoms in the fridge. And what they do before they went out, if we were heading out for dinner or just going out of the house, they'd grab 2 pods and throw it in their mouth and eat it like chewing gum. And the reason for that is because the husk of the cardamom actually does the same thing to sort of clean your teeth, in a sense, and the pods are minty. And so I say all that, and my mom is not nodding, she's nodding, she's laughing. Okay, we'll go. That's good. My memory's not so fuzzy.
Secret is out.
Secret's out. And I say all that because green cardamoms, absolutely edible. Some prefer to pull them out. They don't like biting into them. If that is the case, please do that. But it's actually pretty good for you. And yes, so you don't, you wouldn't necessarily swallow it if you didn't want to. You could always spit it back out, but the flavors are wonderful. And so you're more than welcome to leave that in if you want, Danielle. But the rest stay, except for those two things, the black cardamom and the Indian bay leaf. And same goes for cinnamon stick, for that matter. Some people don't like biting into that either. So I pull that out if you're using that. Some people don't have a problem with it. So yeah, there we go. I think we're ready. It's still got a little bit of just a little bit of sauce around the corners, but I think that'll come up with the heat that's left in the pan. And I'm just going to quickly plate the dish so we can, I'll show you how it's, I suppose, plated, eaten. I will take a quick taste of it just to make sure it tastes okay and if it needs any sugar or salt before I take it out. Perfect. Ooh, and that heat sort of sits in the back of the throat. So immediately there's this creaminess from the ghee. There's the chewiness of the turkey, and then there's the sort of the pop of the matar, the green peas, and then in the back, just as you sort of send it down, you get the heat just kind of covering the back of your throat, and not in an overpowering way, just in a really sort of calming, comforting sort of a way. So that's lovely. Now I'm going to plate this up, and here we go. So I've got my lemon wedge. Actually, how do I do this? Maybe I do it. See, I'm going to switch over from that to here. So I've got my little lemon wedge. I'm just going to take it out. You may not see this, but I'm just going to pop him in here, and then maybe switch back to the other camera because that might be ideal. Actually, what I could do is have a bit of fun and pull this guy all the way out to there. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. Move you to the side, get rid of that. So there we go. That's a little, it's a little bit small, but hopefully you can see it. So that's the Qeema. I'm just gonna add a little bit more. How I would eat it is with some lemon juice, and some yogurt. So I would just add a dollop of it on the side, like so. So you can kind of mix it in as you eat it, so it's not fully incorporated. You would take your lemon wedge and you would squeeze it on top, and it's ready to go. I would have it, I especially love having it with this guy. So he's, I guess it's called papadum, but it's actually got caraway seeds in there, if you can see them, little itty bitty bits of them. And I've just sort of, I've done the shortcut version of this. I've taken what is typically a raw version of this. And let me see if I have one that I can show to you. So a regular version of this before it's cooked looks like this. And it's just flat, I think, and I'll actually defer to Mom, maybe she'll keep me honest, but it's made with besan, which I think is
Lentil flour.
It's lentil flour, yeah. So besan is, I think, specifically chickpea flour, but it's flattened out and dried. So it's almost like, trying to think of an equivalency to it, but it's got caraway seeds in there. What you do is you can either fry it, or you can, what I do is spray oil in it and put it in the microwave and just nuke it for a couple of minutes, and it comes out beautifully. And so hopefully you can hear this. It's really crunchy. And so it goes really well in terms of the texture to eat it with this dish. So again, rice, salad, roll it up as a burrito, to eat.
Tacos.
You can have it with flatbread. Say that again, Mom?
Yeah, you can put in tacos also.
Tacos, yeah, there you go. That's it. Like hard or soft shell tacos. But yeah, all of that wonderful stuff for you to try and have it with. But yeah, there we go. That's your Qeema Matar Masala with a side of papadum. And yeah, have it any way you like. That's the beauty of this dish. It's very versatile. And we're done. Back to you, Brianna.
Thank you, Rash. Please take photos of that. We'd love to post it.
Oh yes, I can certainly do that. I might actually do that while you chat.
So Julia, do you want to launch the poll now for our upcoming classes?
Yes. So just quickly and wrapping us up, before we do that, anyone have a final question for Rash? Rash, do you speak, hold on, Shri, what language did you want to ask if Rash spoke? Malay?
I do speak Malay, yes.
Oh.
Fluently too.
Wow, we should have a fun chat between you and Shri, one of
Yeah,
our
Shri.
former teachers who taught an amazing class. Shri,
Nasi
you want to say
kuning.
hello really fast? She's
Yeah.
based in Hawaii. If you're still here.
Hai,
Apa kabar, Shri?
kabar baik. Kabar baik, Rash. Terima
Nasi
kasih.
kuning.
I
Your
made
nasi
that-
kuning was amazing. Yes,
I made
yes.
nasi kuning, yes. I made
It was
nasi
wonderful. Yes.
Now we
Sorry,
need
Shri.
translations. Tell us
kuning.
what you
Sorry,
said.
I was,
Apa kabar was how are you?
how are
And
you?
go ahead, Shri.
Yeah, how are you? And she said baik, baik, which is fine, just fine, we are well.
That's it. That's it. And she said at the end, terima kasih. Thank you.
Ya, terima kasih, Rash.
Sama-sama. Which
I
is
love it.
you're welcome. Yeah.
Wow.
Sampai ketemu lagi.
Mesti.
Yeah.
Nanti kamu mesti masak lagi. I
Yes.
just said, yes, we will definitely cross paths again, and you have to cook again as well, was what I said
Kita
for
bisa
everyone
masak.
else.
Ya, bisa masak sama-sama ya. Oke,
Yeah,
bye-bye.
mesti. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Shri. We'll have to put your former class in the chat too.
Bye,
Yes.
Julia.
So
She
everyone
did a
can,
wonderful traditional nasi kuning, which is yellow turmeric rice. She did a wonderful job. She even did it in the decorative style, which is traditional, and it was conical. It was, I wasn't able to attend the class, but I watched the replay. Great job, Shri. Really good. You guys have to try it.
amazing. Yes, we'll put it. Oh, thanks, Brianna, for doing that. Well, if we don't have any more questions, and thank you, Shri, we loved hearing from you and seeing you based in Hawaii. We have international.
Oh, David is enjoying the food.
Oh yeah, let's say hi to David and family, and then we'll do a poll. Look at
It's
this.
good?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Wonderful.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. What's the verdict, guys?
Yeah. Really good.
Yeah?
He gets together with his friends and they're going to have a Eastern Asian, Malaysian, and Indian food night. So this is going to be on the menu.
Sold. I'm glad you guys like it. It wasn't too spicy, was it?
Nope, it's just right.
Brianna.
Perfect.
Wow, this is great. Thanks so much for sharing, cooking along. And usually we have a lot of others who cook with us. So we had just you all today, but hopefully others will cook and let us know how it goes. So Rash mentioned she's going to teach with us again, and we want everyone to help vote and let us know what dish she should teach next. So we're going to launch a poll. It's going to pop up on your screen. You should see it now. It's a box, and you can choose which dish you would like to learn next. Rash, do you want to say anything about either of them?
Yeah, so I'm sure most of you have heard of laksa. It's just one of those really hearty coconut spicy soups with noodle. And you can make it vegan all the way up to regular style, which has usually got some shrimp in there and fish as well. And that's a little bit more complex. And we can talk a little bit more about that if that's what folks want to try make. And Singapore noodles, not so complex, actually pretty simple. And just on those two before you guys start polling in, there's the version that the locals in Malaysia, or in this case, Singapore, eat. And then there's the version that everyone knows outside of those countries to be what it is, and it actually isn't authentic. So what I'd be really excited to share with you guys is what the actual authentic version of that dish is, if you'll permit me. So go ahead and choose. Which would you like to learn?
Forgot to unmute myself.
Danielle's saying it's a tough choice. Go ahead. Was it you, Brianna? Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's Julia. We're
Julia.
interchangeable sometimes though. So we have 70% of you have voted. I see the results on the back end. We'll give everyone 30 more seconds to cast your vote and let us know what dish you want to do next with Rash. Our series continues. As the votes come in, we'll let you know that we're hosting about 2 classes a month. And coming up at the end of August, we're going to be featuring Alak, who will be teaching a South Indian dish on August 21st. I hope I pronounce it correctly, but anyone on the call, if I say it incorrectly, please tell me. Pesar Atu. It's a mung bean based dosa crepe dish. Did I say it correctly? Anyone know it well? Well, we'll find out.
I think that was right. I think it's Pesar Atu, but I could be pronouncing it incorrectly as well. But it sounds exciting. I'm going to be tuning in for that.
Yes, we would love to have you. If anyone on this call is interested, we would love to feature you for cuisines from all around the world. And we have a very exciting partnership coming up in September with an organization called Emma's Torch, which is a program that trains asylum seekers who've come to the US in the art of cooking. And they were just featured on CBS Sunday Morning, and we're going to be doing a Vietnamese dish with them in September. We're very, very excited. Yes, there is a newsletter that you can join, and we will send you all of our events. Brianna, if you registered for this class, we'll add you automatically, so don't worry about it. Otherwise, you can go on our cooking library and add yourself. Okay, I'm gonna end the poll. Only 80% of you voted, which means the rest of you might be off getting distracted, but let's see what the choice is. So Rash, you want to read the results?
Yeah, so it's I wouldn't say close, but Singapore noodles it is, which I'm going to be really excited to share. And Danielle, I know you said it was a tough choice. I'm not averse to doing a laksa. I suppose we'll just start with the Singapore noodles since that's the one that got the popular vote, and we'll take it from there.
All right, that sounds delicious too. And there's some requests to get more information about the spices. So Brianna, I know in the wrap up, you'll let everyone know that you'll send a final email with all the details for everyone to take a look at.
Yeah, and Rash, if you could maybe type up some of that information about those spices so we could send it out to everyone, that would be great. And you went very detailed, and I don't think I have everything written down. So if you could type it up and send it over, I'll send it out to everyone with our follow-up email.
I can certainly do that. That's not a problem at all. Happy to help. Cool.
All right. Well, this was so fun. Thanks everyone for an amazing class, for people from all around the world, old friends, new friends. If anyone wants to stick around, we're happy to chat, but we want to keep to our time. Rash, a last question for you. Where are you based?
I am in Melbourne, Australia. So it's coming up on 10:45 in the morning over here. That's where I am at the moment, but I'm originally from Malaysia, born and bred.
I love that we're able to make it work with the time differences.
Yes.
And now you have lunch and dinner, maybe. Even.
I know, I'm all set. But everyone, thank you for joining. I really appreciate you guys making the time to dial in. Your time's valuable, and I'm really thrilled that you chose to spend it with me. Stay safe as you guys head on out there and just kind of do the whole COVID dance. But yeah, come back and cook with not just me, but some of the other lovely folks that'll be sharing over the next couple of weeks. And I'll certainly be dialing in too, so.
Yes, that's how we first met, Rash. She was at one of our classes and asking great questions and cooking along. So you could be featured next. Well, I'm going to officially end the recording, but anyone who wants to, oh, Ellis, you win an award again for staying up late in Ireland. That is so amazing.
Fantastic.
Thank
I know.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. We'll give everyone a wave or your favorite emoji and appreciate everything from all of you. I'll stop recording if you want to stick around. We'd love to have you just for a few minutes for an unofficial after party. So let me stop recording.